Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today is another day when we are doing our live broadcast, and I am glad that you are well. So, my name is Njiro Maura, as usual. Today, I want us to discuss about the status of education in Kenya. Is education in Kenya working, or there are issues in it? What need to be done? Are our communities, our county, and the national government doing the right thing to make sure that our education standards are good? Is Kenyan education comparable to global standards? All those are the things which we are going to do. So it's an open discussion where I'm discussing with my friends here, Bwana Mbore and Bwana EVANSON KIRANGI. So EVANSON KIRANGI will join us at the end of the day. So thank you. So maybe Bore, you can begin by introducing yourself and maybe giving something or giving a statement on introduction, and then I will be asking questions as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njiro. My name is Collins Kipkorir Bore. I'm a teacher by profession, and I teach in Embu County, a school called the Nyangwa Boys High School. And therefore, I can say that I am an authority on this particular subject because as a teacher, these are things. The education system is what we observe on a daily basis, and therefore, I to the issues of our education system in Kenya and see what is working and what can be improved. And we also compare with the standards, as you said, as far as education is concerned elsewhere around the world, and what Kenya can borrow from other from other countries that have had successful education policies and all that. Thank you very much. I didn't hear you. You are muted.
I'm sorry. So, which area do you teach? Which is your area of concern in education?
I teach English and literature.
Okay, English and literature. Good. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you. Karibu sana, Bwana Peter Mbudia. Peter Mbudia is saying there's some chat there that everything is not working in Kenya. Anyway, we will know. So, Bwana Mbore, I'm also a teacher in not by profession, but along the way. I began with engineering, but along the way, I have met myself also teaching in institutions of higher learning. So, but there's something which I also wanted to ask myself, or maybe I wanted maybe to ask you. Maybe can you try to explain to us, like, how is the Kenyan curriculum? Like, do you think the Kenyan curriculum is solving the current needs of the society, or maybe the Kenyan needs? Because like as Kenyans, we have so many issues which we need to solve. We have agricultural issues, we have geocari issues, like industrial issues. Do you think our curriculum is solving our needs as Kenyans?
Thank you very much. That is a very important question. I think since time immemorial, if we look at our education system seems not to address the pertinent issues that should be addressed in any society. Our country, for example, we are talking about the 844 system that is now being phased out. If you look at the kind and the number of graduates that are being channeled out there from our universities, there are quite so many of them. And most of them actually have gone to the art-based courses. They have gone to the art-based courses. We do not have enough people going for the STEM courses. Why? Because they find it easy to be employed rather than being employers themselves. And that is the challenge we have in our country. We have an education system that favors, if you ask me, it favors the art-based courses, and you're therefore channeling out students who cannot be innovative enough, These are students who probably were just in school to cram certain concepts, because when you look at our education system as it is currently, we are it is rote based, meaning that we are only focused on passing examinations and then going out there, and you do not have the right skills to help you even start your own business. You do not have skills to be innovative, and therefore, in my humble view, our education system has not met the standards, because we still have so many people out there who are crying that there is high rates of unemployment. In other countries that are developed, as we speak right now, the youth are not crying. Instead, they are saying the government has given us enough space for us to be innovative, to start our own businesses. Countries like China, for example, that are developed, we can borrow something from them. But here in Kenya, the youth, every now and then, always crying that there are no jobs. Why? Because the government has not put in place strategies to ensure that the youth in this country can be trained to be innovative, can be trained to be employers, and to also come up with their own things. And you see, for example, the other day, I think there was an advertisement that had been done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that there were some jobs outside, I think somewhere in Middle East, and you could see the number of unemployed youth who are crowding at KICC, trying to get access so that they can undergo the interview and see whether they can get these particular jobs. That goes a long way to tell you that our education system has not met the standards, because elsewhere the youth would not even want to go and try jobs elsewhere, because they would want to develop their own country. But because we do not have such kind of things happening in our country, out of this country. Anytime you have a conversation with a Kenyan right now, they will tell you, even if I got a job, a cleaning job in the United States, or even in Australia, I would rather go there. Why? Because we do not have enough jobs in our country. So that is something that can be looked at, and in my view, therefore, I would say we have not met the threshold as far as the education system in our country is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me talk to Evanson Kirangi a little bit. So, Bwana Evanson, there is a button there called mute and unmute. If you press it once, you should be able to enter into the channel or into the conversation. And guys, continue coming in. You can be sharing our link with the people. Yeah, thank you, Bwana Bore. Truly, you have talked about emphasis of STEM and art courses, where you have said that in Kenya we are doing more emphasis of art courses. So, in your own thoughts, what makes you to think, or what do you think is making Kenyans or our system to ignore the STEM courses, which are very serious actually in innovation? I think in some postmodern countries and advanced countries, there is quite some emphasis on STEM courses. Why do you think Kenya is trying to do the opposite? Why do you think Kenya is emphasizing more on art than STEM? That is number one. Then you have also talked about the issues of unemployment and the way Kenyans are desperate for anything. That's why even people could even go to KICC, even to be taken their eyes that I don't know for what, or even people going to some desperate countries in Middle East where you hear like our girls are having issues simply because we do not have enough jobs in Kenya. So in a nutshell, and some of these people have graduated. So does it mean that Kenyan system is not preparing people for the future market, or it is the Kenyan employment system which has failed? What is the issue which is making like people want to seek jobs so much outside rather than wanting to work in their country?
Thank you very much. I think that's an important question. You asked why is it that many Kenyans are opting for the art-based courses rather than the STEM courses, because the STEM courses are then the ones that open up opportunities for Kenyans to be innovative and to start their own businesses and all that. Now, the reason is this. Number one, it is the kind of education system that we had that is now being phased out slowly, the 844 system of education. Now, the 844 system of education focused a lot more on examinations. it is a rote, we call it, it focused a lot on rote memory, where students are cramming, for example, history, they are cramming when did this and this begin, they are doing things that in my view may not help them out there. Then what happens to these students? They end up getting that A, but because they cannot do any other practical thing, they will prefer to go to these particular art-based courses because for them, they feel it is the easiest route. That is the first one. Number two is the fact that the government itself has not done anything to encourage the youth and the graduates to go to our STEM the institutions that offer these STEM courses. We are talking about the technical colleges that we have in our country. The technical colleges that we have in our country right now have been made or have been portrayed as though they are institutions where students who do not do well go to. So what then happens is that a gentleman or a lady who has gotten that A- would rather go to the university and do an art-based course rather than going to a technical university and get the technical skills that will assist them to be innovative later on in life, and even to have that mindset of being starting off their businesses and all that. The problem therefore is our system of education, and the fact that the government has not done enough to tell these young people that you can still get that A, go to technical universities, get the requisite technical skills, and then you're trained on how to be innovative and how to start up businesses and all that. So that partly it is the government, and not even partly, I think hugely the government is to blame because of the kind of education. There is some kind of prestige with going to the university, and sometimes I have conversations with university students and you're asking them, what course are you doing at the university? They're excited they're at the university, and then they just tell you, I'm doing a bachelor of arts. Then you ask them, do you know what you would be after you graduate from the university? They have no idea. They just go to the university because they want to feel that prestige. There is that, it used to be in the past that if you're from a certain village and you're at the university, they don't even ask you what you are doing. They're just excited that you are at the university, and that's what is happening. And therefore, our education system has failed in the sense that government has not done enough to educate Kenyans on the importance of enrolling in these TVET institutions. And as we speak right now, there is a TVET institution in every constituency, closer to people. But then somebody will just want to go to a university and do just any other course. Sometimes I wonder, and without any I do not want to seem to be saying that there are some courses that are not very important, but then sometimes you see the courses that the students choose to go and pursue. You ask them, what is it that you want to be when you finish that particular course? They have no idea because there is no roadmap, there is nothing to guide them, and therefore our government has done less in educating Kenyans on the importance of these STEM courses. We are just good on paper, nothing really. And also the education system that I've talked about. But I hope that maybe with now CBC coming in, we're able to deal with some of these challenges. And I'm sure in the course of our conversation, we can get into CBC a little bit and see what we can mention about that, and we see what are the prospects moving forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think we are moving on well. Maybe let me give you a chronology of how our education system has been. Since independence, we have been having 3 curriculums, and so there was the 7 one. Then we have this one of class 8, and now this one which they are calling CBC. Before we migrated from 7 to 8, that was during Moi era. So Moi is the one who saw that transition of shifting from 7 to 8. After he looked for a professor, I think it was called, I don't know if it was Professor Makiol, there was a professor who gave that report that Kenya needs to transit to 844 with an aim of self-reliance. Let me call it propaganda, because I think for education system to work globally everywhere, it has to be customized with the culture of that country, or with the strengths of that country. And the unfortunate part which is there is that I think Africans, not only Kenyans, Africans have adopted so much of the exotic education, and we have been unable to blend it with what we do best. So you realize that majority of the things which we are doing, we are only working, we are only schooling so that we can get what we call the blue and the white collar jobs. So like somebody wants to go to school so that he can go into an office somewhere. Everybody wants to manage somebody, so everybody wants to become a manager, and it is the wrong perception. Like Bonabore, because you have been to the university, you know that everybody in the university, you want a big job, and the perception which we have been told is that when you go to the university, your work is to manage others. Like we do not think like when you go to the university, you are being trained so that you can get skills which can actually produce resources. Now, when I'm talking of this curriculum, so we had those three curriculums which we have interfaced them. So and the two happened when Kenya was not very highly populated. Right now, Kenya is close to 50 million plus people. So we are increasing in our perspective, but our infrastructure and so many other things are not increasing as per the population. So now, so you realize that when Moi introduced 844 system, and there was this increase of universities from the main one, Nairobi University, to now Moi University, there were some other teething problems which came because, you know, in Kenya and mostly in Africa, we really have money. Everything is understaffed. So every time you hear people are saying there's no money, there's no money. Like we have never been prepared of having anything. We have never had money. So, and you realize like the government does not invest on concepts which can help to grow the nation. There is a question I want to ask you. You realize all the times from 1960, our government has been saying that our economy is all our money is from agriculture. I think you have ever heard of that. They used to tell us that agriculture is the backbone of our society. Agriculture. They used to talk of agriculture, so they didn't talk of industrialization. They didn't talk of so many other. So every time they used to tell us agriculture. Then this agriculture, which we are told that it is the backbone of our economy, when you look in our villages, we are not practicing it the way. So the agriculture which we wanted to become economy, it is subsistence. So would you like to tell me that is it still true? Agriculture is the backbone of our economy.
I think that is a story that has been told over and over again. But if you look at the reality, as you rightly put, it is not. It has been subsistent because we are talking about an economy right now. If you look at the changing world right now, Kenya, just like any other country, should be transiting into industrialization, as you rightly put. We are talking about technology, and therefore, if we are still talking about an activity that has never, in any one at any one time, become the backbone, as it were, then I don't think as a country we really pride ourselves in it. So if you ask me, right now we are talking about that agriculture. If you ask any person who wants to start and get into agriculture because they want to contribute to the economy, they will tell you, number one, I'm not going to get there because for example, you're talking about, they will tell you that the prices of maize right now as we speak has gone down. We are talking about the Mumias sugar industries that used to be there in Western. They are no longer there, and yet we have so many people want to get into this farming and help the country because of the belief that it is the backbone of our economy. We are talking about farmers, the coffee farmers that we have in our country. We are talking about the tea farmers always complaining that there is nothing that is working in our country. And therefore, even as we talk about agriculture being the backbone of our economy, we need to ask ourselves, are our own people who have gotten into farming happy with the kind of business environment that we have in our country? And All this, and the blame is on government, because the government has not provided an environment for such kind of businesses in farming to thrive. And therefore, what is happening is that now people are opting to get what you talked about initially, just to get employed and earn some money and see what they can put on the table on a daily basis, rather than doing something that will be long term. And therefore, agriculture, in my view, was supposed to be the backbone of our economy, but it has failed. Instead, we have our own people suffering. Now, what the government is doing, instead of promoting the local farmers and all that, we are having them entering into agreements with other countries. We are importing things that we could be producing in our own country. We have not made our farmers feel as though they can do their farming businesses and thrive. We are discouraging them, and that's why they have opted to leave farming, as it were, and they have gotten to other areas that may not pay them much as it would have been if they had a good environment for them to do agricultural business and all that. And therefore, it is my feeling and my view that agriculture is not the backbone of our economy, because if it were, then we would be far as a country. Our economy will be doing well. We keep saying that we middle economy with the CG what in Africa, yet we are not even there. If you ask the common citizen out there what they feel about their own country, you'll be shocked, because there is no one who is happy right now because of the kind of environment that we are in. So therefore, that's my view as far as the issue of agriculture is concerned. It is no longer the backbone of our economy, as they used to say, because of the kind of business environment that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, good. Okay. In Kenya, there are two universities which have been stressing with agriculture too much. I agree, agriculture in Kenya cannot be termed to be an economic driver because of it is not working very well because of many bottlenecks here and there. So my question would be now, if agriculture is not working, what else in Kenya can we say that it is the main income generator and it is putting us in the world of competition with other countries? Having said that, JKUAT and Egerton University were purely started to handle agriculture in Kenya. Because I remember when JKUAT was starting, I think it used to be a college before it became a fully fledged university, which was highly financed by Japanese. They were highly concentrating on agriculture. I remember very modernized seeds used to come from JKUAT, even banana, so many things. So we have JKUAT and Egerton, even Egerton, and so much issues of agriculture, especially livestock farming. If you have interacted with many people who studied in Egerton, there was a lot of livestock farming there. So my question in terms of that, because those are two universities which have concentrated with agriculture, and maybe that's where maybe we can say there was a little bit of financing in research. Bonambore, do you think JKUAT and Egerton University have lived to the dream of our fathers as being the innovative centers where Kenyan agriculture could be designed from?
Thank you very much for that pertinent question. Let me begin from where you just left, because you're talking about the history of these universities. These universities were meant to concentrate on agriculture. But as we speak right now, their focus has shifted. They have shifted, and these are the universities that are offering the art-based courses that we talked about. If you go to Jomo Kenyatta University of Technology, JKUAT, right now, many of the students who are there are not even pursuing what the university was originally supposed to offer. They have decided to go to these other courses, and partly the reason as to why the universities, the two universities have opted to get into these other courses is because there are so many students who want to get into the courses that were not initially offered by these universities. So they have had to revise their courses and accepted the art-based courses that we are talking about. We are talking about education. We are talking about these other courses that were not initially really meant for those kind of universities. Therefore, my view and my feeling is that if we had a system that would be followed thoroughly, so that we know that there are certain universities in Kenya that are known for agriculture, there are certain universities in Kenya that are known for technology, there are certain universities in Kenya that are known for education, and they would focus on that, then it will assist us. But as it is right now, we do not have a clear roadmap on what a university is known for. Even their names themselves were supposed to mean that there are universities that offer. You look at, for example, we are talking of Technical University of Kenya. That is a university that was originally meant to offer courses to do with engineering and technical skills and all that, but it no longer does, because their concentration has now shifted to other courses. We have Jomo Kenyatta University of Science and Technology. That is the name. But if you look at what courses they offer right now, they have totally shifted, and they're just like any other university. You are talking about Egerton University. That is a university that was on its deathbed, just like Moi University, because of the funding and the mismanagement of our public universities. Well, that is another reason, by the way, that we need to focus on our education system, and we need to first start by how our universities are managed. The kind of mismanagement that we are having in most of these universities, Egerton University, Moi University, right now students are not in school. As we speak, they're at home. Why? Because the university has been brought to its knees by the management, and the government seems to be helpless. There is nothing they are trying to do. What has that done? Many students are stranded. They do not know what to do. The other day they were called to go back to campus, but then they got there and they are told learning is not taking place because there is no agreement that has been reached. Lecturers are complaining that their monies they have their loans have never been remitted because the university is not paying them. We are talking about the workers there. So the mismanagement within our universities is something to blame. The government tried to come up with something they called a university model, because the funding model, because they said that initially what used to happen is that the universities were the one being funded. So now the government said that we need to fund the students. Now what that does is that it creates inequalities, in the sense that originally this funding model was supposed to help the less fortunate out there. But then as we speak right now, there are so many students who have not even gone to the university because, number one, they were placed in the wrong bands by the government, and therefore they have to pay huge money. Are these students going to access our education? So from the onset, if you ask me, our universities are not living up to the standards. Every day there is a university that is being chartered, there is being given a charter, but then when you ask them what is the university offering, there is nothing. They're just cherry picking courses here and there and putting it there for the sake of it. Our universities have become like a cash cow, where we're just going there to get money. The universities just want to make money instead of focusing on those tech skills, agriculture as it were, and all that. Therefore, our universities are failed, and the government is in the forefront because it appears to be helpless. There is nothing it is doing. We're just complaining, and they are joining us in the complaints instead of offering solutions to the problems that are facing us.
Yeah, good. Let me bring two countries which have developed themselves from technology, and they have become superior countries. We have a country called Taiwan. Taiwan is close to China there. Sometimes the Chinese, they are saying that they are not a country. But Taiwan has become an advanced country by purely producing things we call chips. They are the things which are put in phone. Every phone, every computer, they have chips. So Taiwan is producing chips for the world. And these things which are called GPU. Then we have India. India has specialized on medicine. So India is producing drugs. Let me bring Evans, can you hear me? You can unmute. How are you?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, and you are too much in there, or you prefer to be stuck.
I'm very sorry, engineer.
Mm.
My phone disappointed me so gravely.
Okay, there's no problem about that. We can
My phone broke down and I could not access the panel.
Okay, no problem. So, but I'm with the body here who we are advancing well. So maybe, do you have like a time I ask you, or you want to first of all look for light, then I ask you a question later, so that you can contribute to the discussion.
Okay. How have you gone with Mr. Mbore?
We are just looking at the funding models of the universities, where we are looking at the failure of that. So the question which we were trying to answer to ask right now was we were trying to say, like, in India, they are concentrating too much on drugs. They are producing drugs for everybody. Taiwan, they are producing computer materials for everybody, and that is how they are becoming rich. And they are doing a lot of business, including even with America and other superior countries. So the question which I was asking is, how comes Kenya we have not realized one thing which we can produce and we sell to the world, yet we are producing graduates daily. We have like close to 50 universities which are graduating close to 2,000 people. Why is it that our economy is still very passive? Like, we are very passive graduates. What is the problem? That's the question.
Okay, my take on this one. It is not entirely on the ability of Kenyans and Africans in general. We are not people of a lesser God. We are not so weak mentally or intellectually. But then the problem could be from the way funding is done. There is very poor funding, and you know, so that people who have the ability or people who are mentally gifted, they cannot be funded as it happens in other jurisdictions, so that somebody can further the skill that they have. The institutions that train engineers and the rest are very poorly funded, so that in the end we produce half-baked engineers, half-baked graduates, and people who can only remember, but they cannot innovate anything. Maybe that's what I could say for now.
Okay, you can mute a little bit. I will bring you back, just so that we can proceed. Okay, so Wanambore, you have had that slight comment from Kirangi. So maybe can you tell me, in Kenya, can we produce a vaccine in Kenya? Can we produce, like, can Kenyan mode of education produce a car? Can it produce a vaccine?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Mr. Kirangi has expounded on what I was talking and saying about. I was talking about initially, that our education system is tailored in such a way that it cannot do what happens in most of these developed countries. You are asking whether Kenya can produce a vaccine, but there is a video that I saw somewhere that the education system we have in Kenya and most African countries is tailored in such a way that it does not encourage innovation. Why is it so? We are taking a student to school to teach them that, and I'm just trying to quote that person verbatim. He talked about, we are taking a student to school to teach them to cram the parts of butterfly. We are taking a student to school to cram how many times Muslims pray. We are taking a student to school to cram when Vasco da Gama came to Kenya. We are taking a student to school to learn parts of an animal and all that. Therefore, this student gets an A and goes to the university to do medicine. They go to do medicine. What are they taught at the university? The student will get out of that university knowing how to administer medication, knowing how to give Panadol, and telling you, you need to take this Panadol, this amount in a day. You need to take this medicine, this amount in a day. But if you ask them how that medicine was made, they have no idea. They go blank. Why? Because our education system does not encourage innovation. They cannot sit and they cannot even try to innovate. We have our own Camry that is supposed to be encouraging innovation. When other countries were working are just depending and waiting for you know.
It's a smooth climb.
Umepotea kidogo ama you want to?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead now. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I think my network is not very stable, but then yeah. So I'm saying that when other countries were trying to look for solutions, our country, we were just there, you know, helpless, waiting for funds and assistance to come from other countries. And therefore, as we speak right now, our education system does not encourage innovation. And if we are waiting for a country to come up with vaccines, we still have a long way to go, because that is not going to happen. We have elements, some very few individuals who have been innovative in their own ways, and I could say they have defied odds. Those, and there are very few. Like, for example, I have a friend that we schooled, and right now he has a company that I think is producing some USB chargers somewhere in Kirinyaga here. That is somebody who has just, out of his own volition and out of his own love for technology, has decided to come up with something new. So these people, the very few who have tried to come up with innovations, they have done so without the assistance of the government. If the government came in handy and assisted them, and if our education system encouraged such kind of innovation, I think as a country we would not be talking about what we are talking about right now. We'll be somewhere else and talking about developments and what next innovation we are going to have. So that's my assessment of the situation. We still have a long way to go, and we might not see any big innovations happening right now. We may have the ideas, but then those ideas are stolen by other people outside, and they go with them because they have the wherewithal on how to do it.
Yeah, great. Maybe to bring Evanson in that level also, I wanted also to ask, because you see, I have been a bit fortunate, a little bit, to have tested education in both worlds, in our country and also in advanced countries. And there are things which I see, especially in elementary schools in advanced countries, whereby they start teaching kids soft skills very early. Like in America, for instance, you can see like kids of even 7 years, they start orienting them to IT, or this thing which we are calling artificial intelligence. So you are seeing like even kids of earlier 7 years, they are being oriented on these soft skills. I went into another school, even they have even put a damaged car there for them. So a kid is able to tell you all the parts of the car. This is the things which we come to know when you buy a car. Now it's a kid who is telling you. Can you imagine a kid of 7 years is telling you this is a carburetor, this is a fan? So is that so? Maybe now somebody told me that CBC is also trying to target the same. Now that Bore, maybe you might be Bore and Kirangi, maybe you can talk this one in alternate. Maybe we start with Kirangi, because maybe I know Kirangi has a small kid, and maybe you could be looking at what they are doing. Maybe at what they are doing. Can you maybe tell me, do you think CBC is bringing those highly needed soft skills to take Kenya into the next cycle of development, or is just another good name which has been brought, doing the same thing which we have been doing from time immemorial? Thank you. Kirangi, go ahead.
Okay. The panel. I think, being a teacher and a parent at this time, I'm able to evaluate what could be happening. CBC could be very good in ideas, very good in everything, but when we come to the practical bit of it, it becomes another world. We have one problem here, as I earlier said, funding. You can see we have had a lot of problem with the JSS teachers. Now, a teacher of Kiswahili CRE is teaching chemistry. How much are they going to deliver, Mr. Maura? Very little. Maybe this person himself failed chemistry and they did so poor in that chemistry, and then they are forced to teach chemistry in class 7, class 8, because there's no other person. Why? it goes back to the beginning, funding and lack of political goodwill. Engineer Moro, you know, these politicians, which I don't want to call leaders in Kenya, their children don't go to school in Kenya, and if they go to school in Kenya, they don't attend schools like the schools we have here in public primary schools and the rest. They attend Brookside. It's said called Brookside or Brook Hill. These international schools, that's where their children go. But for our children, that's where our child, who is supposed to be taught home science, is going to be taught by somebody who learned that home science maybe from his mother's kitchen, because there was no home science in primary school, there was no home science in secondary school. They went to the university, there was no such a thing. And then, because that's something, that subject has to be taught in school, somebody is given a textbook and they are told to come up with ideas to tell the students something. And therefore, our children are being wasted in the end. And it goes back to the same thing, funding. Teachers have to go on strike so that the government can hire teachers. What the hell is that? Teachers have to go on strike to demand for the JSS teachers to be employed. And we still have children who are being experimented with. I'm sorry to say, I have a child who is being experimented with. And they are going to do that, and I cannot do nothing about it. CBC is good, they have ideas, but then how is it going to be implemented without funding? Maybe they have ideas what is supposed to be done, but nobody is willing to do the way it is supposed to be done. And that's my take.
Yes, Bonambore, you can handle the same question too.
I think I associate myself fully with the sentiments of Bwana Evanson, because if you look at the CBC curriculum that we have in our country right now, the competency-based curriculum, the intention was to ensure that our students have hands-on practical skills from a very young age. And it was very good. It's a very good curriculum on paper. On paper, very good. But the practical bit is where we have a problem. Number one is the fact that the government hurriedly implemented the competency-based curriculum without having to do the requisite things that they needed to do before implementing it. Number one, the piloting was done very fast, and it was done in very few schools that had the facilities. They didn't do piloting in some of these very local schools that cannot access such facilities that are needed in CBC. Number two is the fact that, as Mr. Evanson says, the funding is a problem. We have teachers who have just been put there, and they are told go and teach this and this subject. Yet you went to the university to do English and literature. You're there teaching chemistry. Tell me how these students are going to benefit from that particular curriculum. Right now, parents were complaining because our teachers also do not know what they should be teaching. They have no idea. So what do? They tell the students, go home tomorrow, come with the chicken. We are going to cook chicken, and the teacher will enjoy the delicacy. All right. They tell the students, we are going to do cleanups in our local area, so come prepared and be innovative. So what do these students do? You see them wearing some gunias, some sacks, and they are saying they are creative. That's how they are going to help to collect to clean our cities here and there. But then when you look at these countries that have advanced, when we are talking about competency-based curriculum, when a Kenyan student is being taught how to cut chicken and cook chapati, somewhere else in China, a student is being taught how to make a phone. Somewhere in China, a student is being taught how to manufacture a car and something else. But then in our country, we are only focused on some very few elementary things that we cannot even be proud of. So our system of education is not the problem as such. The problem is the implementation bit. If we had enough funding for this curriculum, then it will be the best curriculum. Right now, the students, and Mr. Evanson talked about this, that are being experimented on are these students who are in, for example, grade 9. They were supposed initially they were supposed to transit to secondary school where we have facilities. Right now they are told they will be domiciled in where they were initially, and yet they do not have even the facilities. There was an extra class that was constructed in the secondary school, but right now that class is going to remain vacant because the students were told you're going to remain in the primary school, as it were. Therefore, these students are confused. They are told next year now they are moving from grade 9, they are going to grade 10. Grade 10, they'll start choosing their subjects based on their career paths. They do not even know how they are going to do that. They do not know what they want. The government has not offered any guidance. The schools, the teachers, if you ask them, do not even understand. Even the principals of those schools, if you ask them right now, what is going to happen next year, they are just waiting. They are saying we will learn along the way. So therefore, we are experimenting with our children instead of being proactive and instead of giving practicability to something that we as a people said that we need to change. Therefore, if you ask me the transition from 844 to CBC, I don't think there is much of a difference as we speak, unless the government is very deliberate in its quest to change the education system in our country. Those are my views.
Okay, good. Maybe to talk a little bit on what both of you have said. I think based on what you have said, I can single out, like you are saying, we have some skills gap, especially for maybe those teachers who could be teaching this CBC. The intention could be there, that they want people to be prepared for the next generation skills. But as we are aware, the next generation skills are mostly in computational world, whereby people have to, like now, we are now going in the world of robotics and AI, artificial intelligence. That's where everything is getting to. If it is agriculture, we want to have AI in agriculture. If it is teaching, we want to see teaching. We want to see AI in teaching. Like AI is blossoming everywhere. Now it's now becoming the real thing. That is why even like in places like America, where they have embraced these things for so long, that's why they can do their election, and within 6 hours, close to 80% of results have been tabulated. While in Kenya, a country of 55 million people, will need a week to tabulate the same numbers. The numbers which are close to what Texas is doing, or maybe what California is doing, we are using a week. Those people are using like 2 hours. One thing which fascinated me is like a place in Florida, a place with 8 million voters, they used 30 minutes to tabulate the votes. 30 minutes. I want you, Bonabode, to imagine that. 8 million, and you know, when you are counting votes, it means there is a lot of confirmation, so you have to confirm. So you are not just like taking numbers alone. There is a lot of, we call it correlation, whereby like you are doing some comparison. There are some decisions to make, but within 30 minutes they have numbers, 8 million. So that means that's a confirmation of extreme technology on use, and now they are also using it to save money. Then there is something which you hear like people saying that we don't want too much of technology because maybe it could make some people not get jobs. But people are not understanding that even these AI jobs or these artificial or technology jobs will also bring other types of jobs. But we always have that scare whereby Africans, when, like, you remember, like there was in Kericho, maybe you're aware of Kericho. In Kericho, there is tea leaves there. Like, for example, they wanted to introduce a machine. I know there is a lot of politics. They wanted to introduce a machine to be instead of people are there with their things and throwing on the back, they wanted a tea plucking machine. But it did not see the light of the day because people claimed that the jobs will go away. But at the same time, I understand those people because our government has not been innovative enough And many of the middle-aged people who we have, they do not have like exorbitant skills which they can apply in the industry. And the only jobs which they can do, they are these manual jobs. So I understand them. But now in the next 30 or 50 years, we cannot be saying that our people are not prepared for the next generation skills. So this generation which we already have, we can be lenient to them and we say that they can still continue doing their manual job. But in the next 30 or 50 years, we have now to fully integrate with where the rest of the world is going. So I have this question which I have to ask both of you. There is a problem which I see in Kenya, and I don't know how we can be able to solve it. Because without innovation, even the economy becomes very expensive. Because innovation is one of the things which makes you to get good use of the money which you have. And we are very poor in innovation. That is why we can spend like 60 billion to do an election which will be disputed. Can you imagine? You spend 60 billion to do an election which will take people to court to spend another money. That is why, because of lack of a proper system. So that's why systems will help you to use your money appropriately. Now we have like I was reading a newspaper another day. I heard that in Kenya we are graduating close to 100,000 people per year, all the 50 universities or so, 15,000 graduates, and majority of the graduates who we are graduating, they are ending up not getting the job they wished to get. So many of them they are going to do other things. So they are not becoming specialists of what they spent like 20 years training in. So the question which I have is, do you think there will be? Do you think there is a political solution to Kenyan lack of development? Do you think it's a political issue, or it is lack of the country to grow? What is the problem? Is it Kenyan politics, or it is lagginess of the country? Who is to blame in this mass unemployment in Kenya? Maybe we can start with Bwana Kirangi. Go ahead. You can unmute and speak.
My guess is one, lack of political goodwill. Without political goodwill, there's nothing good that will come out of anything. Now, for instance, Engineer Mora, you know well that we killed the Wembuye paper factory. In our days when we were young, we knew that paper is manufactured in Wembuye. We knew that petroleum is refined in Changamwe. We knew that cars are assembled in Thika. Do we still have all those? No. How did they die? They died out of bad politics in our country. That's why we shall continue graduating our young generations who will not get jobs in industrial jobs. We have mechanical engineers who are supposed to come up with those things that we need to talk about, industrialization. But when do they end up to? They just passed copy exams at Form 4. They copy exams in the university. They graduate. They go out and get employed as cashiers in Equity and KCB and Cooperative. We also have another problem. The raw materials. We have raw materials in Kenya, but we cannot even add value to them. We can only sell things in their raw form. For instance, who makes Nescafe? Is it made in Kenya? No. But we produce coffee, sell it raw, then we bought coffee, and we think that we are enjoying. Still, I'm told we have some iron ore and so many other things for an engineer. But then, how many people know how to make steel in Kenya? We have our engineers that are graduating every year. How many engineers can make steal from iron ore. They can only copy notes. They can only make notes, then graduate. My friend, we have a problem here. Another thing, we are talking about joblessness. And you have just talked about the tea harvesting machine, which people say, no, 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 we don't want that. Then my question is, we have trained our people not to work in business, but to work for employment. We have created education as a consumer goods. Our education is, I want to go to school, I become a doctor, I'll be employed, I get a good salary, I get a good house, such a thing. I want to be an engineer, I'll be employed as an engineer, I get money. When they don't get employed, what next? Frustrations. They start posting on WhatsApp and Facebook status. I am a graduate of this and this, give me any job. I saw another one burning his papers because he has been out in the streets for 6 years since graduation. He has not got any job, and he thought he was going to get any job, and he was a lawyer. Okay? No, my brother. We were looking at jobs. Where are those jobs coming from? The jobs can only come forth if, one, we have political goodwill. I have always seen the government every time bailing Mumia Sugar. You have also seen it, bailing, because Mumia Sugar is running at a loss. Mumia Sugar is always running at a loss. Why is it running at a loss? Is it that they are not sugar cane? We have raw materials. We cannot industrialize because we have no political goodwill. Political goodwill lacks in this case. The persons who are sent to run down the industries, where are they taken to? What happens to them? I saw somebody being jailed for 67, 68 years because of corruption. And in a short while, he comes out of prison, walking and smiling, and then he is now an MP somewhere. What are we talking about? Lack of political goodwill is the poison that is killing our system slowly and very painfully. I submit.
Oh, Bonambore has gone. Eh? Anyway, it's okay. It's true. So as we wait for Bore, so Bwana Kirangi, do you think? So what do you think is the solution? Like, let's say now we have these Kenyan graduates. What is the solution? Like, what can be done? We now have a. Okay, Bore is coming. Okay, maybe a minute, Kirangi. Let me ask him. Okay, Bore, I hope you remember the same thing which Kirangi has handled. So that now we can now come now and we start handling solutions. So maybe you can chip in on the same thing which Kirangi was dealing with.
So thank you very much, and sorry for that hiccup. Now, I think Kirangi has painted a picture, and it is the real picture that we have in our country. It all speaks to the kind of leadership that we have. It is about leadership, nothing else. You know, every time we are going to an election, you will hear leaders say, we are going to make this country like Singapore. We are going to make this country like South Korea. But then we don't ask ourselves, how did South Korea and Singapore develop to be where they are? It was not out of rocket science. It was not out of anything. It was the leadership, the right leadership. But when we have in our country, we elect leaders, the next day they are still they start campaigning for the next election instead of getting down to business and helping us to do business. We are usually excited that our president has been invited to White House, and it is an excitement. For the very first time, our president has been given a is having a state visit and all that. That kind of excitement, people do not know what comes with it. This the superpowers see us and they see that we have resources that we cannot exploit. So what do they decide to do? They decide to now make friends with us and pretend to be assisting us so that they can exploit these resources on our behalf because we have failed to exploit them. We have the resources, we have everything that we need as a country. but we have not developed. We have not gotten there because of the kind of leadership we have. And if we can only change, and by the way, it all goes back to us as citizens, because we have the vote. But what do we do? Somebody tells us that I am from your tribe. I have been the previous government has really been hard on me, therefore vote for me. Out of sympathy, we vote for someone, and they get to power, and then we start blaming them very few months into power, and say there is nothing they are doing. Yet we are the same people who gave them the power. We knew that probably this person is not going to deliver. We knew, but because we wanted to sympathize with them, we just have him in power. And then we start judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. And yet, in the beginning, we knew that there is nothing that this person can do. So, number one, we need to look at our leadership. We need to ensure that we have the right people in power. And we also need to look at our debt, because as a country, I think we are over dependent on foreign debt. And that's why, as a country, we keep saying that we have signed a deal with South Korea. We have signed a deal with China. We have signed a deal with the United States. But who knows what is inside that deal? They are not assisting us. They are giving us loans. These loans are taken back to Kenya, and very few benefit, by the way, because this loan is supposed to be is meant for what we call development expenditure. But then it comes back here, it is taken to recurrent expenditure. Very few people who are in high-end jobs are the ones who get advantage because they are paid. But the common mwananchi, the common citizen down there, it does not trickle down to them. And therefore, it has everything to do with leadership. If Singapore came from where they were to where they are right now, if South Korea, I usually hear stories that, sometimes back, South Korea would depend on other countries, and even Kenya would be funding such kind of countries. But as we speak right now, South Korea is one of the developed countries around the world. It just boils down to the leadership and the political goodwill in our country. And therefore, I would support Mr. Kirangi's assertions that indeed it rests with the kind of leadership that we have. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Maybe to give some insight of those countries which you have mentioned. All those countries which you have mentioned, there's no country which is not doing something serious in terms of technology, in terms of bringing business to them. Like, for example, the reason why Singapore is very famous and is very rich, it is because Singapore positioned itself as a shipping center. So majority of goods coming from China going to Europe and America, they have to pass through Singapore. So Singapore is like a gate. So through positioning themselves that way, it usually attracted a lot of business and a lot of tranquility for the economy. For South Korea, they produce two serious products, which we all know. They produce South Korea. They produce TV, Samsung. Samsung TV is from them. The car you die is from them. And there is something I want to confirm to you here. The reason why, as Africans, unless we start thinking about technology and some other diversification, it will be difficult. Like, for example, one TV like this flat screen, which we are buying now, they are now going between 20,000 to 100,000, depending with the size. And once you produce one TV, especially if you have an industry, it is a repeated job. It is you are producing those parts and you can assemble them in millions. What about a farmer who is producing coffee? For you to produce one bag of coffee, and what is the amount of money you are doing there? So that's why you realize that those countries which have purely said that we will only depend on agriculture alone, agriculture cannot help you as much as these people who are doing technology. Like, there was a story which actually shocked me when I heard like Russia produces these fighter jets, which almost every country is buying. There are these fighter jets which are called MiG. They are called MiG-29. Like, I heard the price of one MiG, which they produce within a week, is $30 million. So Russia is producing a MiG in 1 week to raise $30 million. And that $30 million is usually the amount of money we get 1 year from coffee. So Russia is only producing one jet to get what all farmers in Kenya are producing through getting coffee, through either doing coffee or tea, whichever you want to cost. So those are issues. So those people who never farm, we are the people who are producing food for them. The person who is working in a MIG factory, where those chop, or the person who is working in Samsung, he is good, he is having a good family, he is having a good house, he's doing everything. But at the same time, the guy who is farming in Kenya, he is having torn clothes. You know, the guy who is producing coffee, or the guy who is producing tea leaves, he is having torn clothes. His kids cannot go to school, and he is in business. Just like business is business, whichever. So that's why we need to understand there are some imbalances which even our scholars are not able to understand or to stand there, and they tell now people this is what, why is farming not producing money? Because it's abnormal. While other people are producing money in their industry, somebody who is producing a car is making money, including even people who have garages in our homes. They produce money. But how come a farmer is the only person who is in the farm and doing a lot of work, and is having torn clothes and some other shirts which have some black things here because he is working so hard? So that's a question we need to ask ourselves. So maybe to ask you people a question. You people, do you think these Kenyan problems of education and just like the way we have discussed them, do you think there is a solution, or we are doomed to death, as we cannot be helped? We cannot become a Singapore, because a Singapore is only used as a showcase which does not alive. Are we condemned to death? Sisi tutakaa hivyo, Bwana Kirangi?
Okay, we are not condemned. We are not perpetually condemned, and we are not indefinitely condemned. But we have a problem: our political industry. If only we had people with vision. My brother, the other day I was seeing some people joking that Tanzania is flying planes, maybe made in Tanzania, or others said, no, they are not made in Tanzania, they are assembled in Tanzania. And then I was asking, if they are not made in Tanzania, they were designed elsewhere, but assembled in Tanzania. Have we assembled one ourselves? Why is it that somebody will think of assembling planes and flying them in Tanzania, but not in Kenya? What is missing in Kenya? We have an equal share of the sea and the ports and the coastline. We have seaports, we have airports, we have everything. But then we are only selling our airports. That's a rumor. I say that one from the flip side. Now the other thing, Maura or engineer, let's look at this thing. How do we revamp Rivertex so that it becomes an international textile producing industry or factory? How do we revamp Wembuye paper factory so that we stop importing paper from South Africa? Indeed, if Mr. Mbore, when Mr. Mbore, you are going to talk next, please tell us where the papers that you use in printing in your school come from. Are they from Kenya? They are from India and South Africa and Pakistan. Which is what is so good in India and Pakistan and South Africa that makes them produce so good paper, while we have a paper factory that cannot produce any paper? What is so good with us having to import refined petroleum while we had Changamwe oil refinery limited, something like that. While we were refining petroleum in Changamwe, what happened? And do we have anybody in our political leadership who is talking about revamping and reawakening those dead sleeping giants? They once served the community. Kenyans use their taxes to build those factories. Why are they laying waste? Okay, Changamu was giving us diesel, petrol, and the rest. Now it does not give us even bitumen. We have to import all the products of crude. Another problem we have here, Mr. Engineer. The other day I heard a rumor that in Kenya we have found deposits of coltan, even here in Embu County. Coltan, which is used in Korea and other places to make motherboards of computers, laptops and phones and televisions. That element that is used by those civilizations to industrialize, we have it here. But then, have we even made one motherboard? No, because now we are trying to fight who is going to own that land, who is going to get royalties from that piece of land, who is going to get what, who is going to get what. The other day I heard that we had Gamia 1, Gamia 2, or even Gamia 10. We had crude in Turkana. Is it still benefiting Kenyans? We had Turu oil, which was exploring petroleum in our country, and we found numerous deposits of the same. What is it doing to us? Is it serving us? No. Why? Very bad, ugly, horrible political leadership. And the only way to go is we need to change, just like Marimbore said, we need to change our mindset. It is not our son. It is not our person. It is supposed now to be the right person doing the right job. I don't want to go back to Francis Ibuga's Betraying the City of people saying, I was trained but given the wrong job. Let us not be trained and be given the wrong jobs. Let us be trained and be given the right jobs where we qualify, where we can give our best. That's my submission.
Okay, yes, Bonambore, you can tell us the same. Are we condemned or things can change in Kenya in terms of improving our economy and using education as skills for mass transformation?
I want to again agree with Bwana Kirangi that we are not condemned and we are not doomed. I think we can get out of this mess only and only if we decide to make a deliberate move, and that has to start with leadership. I think research has shown the other day that Kenya is one of the rising countries as far as technology is concerned, and Kenya is emerging as one of the new leader in the technology market, and we have surpassed countries like Nigeria, and we have become the hub of innovation and technological development in the continent and in the continent. And this can be attributed to factors such as innovation in things like the mobile payments that we have, the startups companies that are coming up, the improvement of technological infrastructure, and all that. But then you ask yourself, for example, we had the idea in the 2030 manifesto, in the 2030 blueprint. We had the idea of the Konza City, for example. Now, this Konza City is supposed to develop into a Kenyan smart city. But yes, it has developed. We are seeing progress. But look at the companies that are being invited to invest here. We are having the tech giants coming in, things like Microsoft. Yes, we are talking about the Google announcing that they will also be part of that. But then ask yourself, how are the innovative Kenyans being tapped into all this? What are we doing? We are inviting foreign investors, yes, but then the people who are supposed to be benefiting are the real technological innovators that we have in our country. We have so many people who have ideas, but because our government is not offering them any support, the people who are benefiting from these advancements are people from outside. So what happens to the Kenyans? The Kenyan people are simply taken and then they're employed to be in those particular companies. And the person who is earning are the owners of Microsoft, the owners of Google. And then we are saying we have tech companies coming to our country. I think that's a wrong notion of looking at it. The other thing that I want us to look at, for example, is do we have trust, or does the government have trust in our in the citizens themselves? Look at the companies that get contracts to do certain things in our countries. If we are talking about, for example, construction, if it is not an Indian, it's a Chinese. If it is not a Chinese, it is somebody from the US. If it is not somebody from the US, it's somebody from the UK. And yet we have people who have been tried and tested in our own country that can get these contracts and do a good job. So we have contracts because we believe that it's only the Chinese who can do a good job. Then we get a Chinese to come and do that. We are now auctioning our airport to Adani. All right. And we are saying that maybe Adani can do something good for us in the next 30 or so years. We are not even looking at the solutions that we can offer on our own here. And therefore, we are still in what we may call neocolonialism. We still believe that we cannot do things on our own. And that is the mentality that when and only if it is changed, then we are going to start seeing development in our country. This is a very good country with very great potential. By the way, the kind of ideas that we have in our country, even when you listen to young people tell you an idea, you sit with someone, and you are sharing what here in Kenya we call stories ajaba, because this person is giving you stories and then you're saying, wow, I wish we had something that we could do to make that idea work. But then we don't, because we can only have an idea, but when it comes to the implementation bit, that's the problem. So the only way to change all this is by having a deliberate leadership that is willing to help to move Kenya to the next level. Are we still there? No. We still have a long way to go, but I believe we will reach there. Thank you.
Okay, Bora, I can hear you are a bit positive, but there's a challenge I have. If you look at the leadership, whether current or the others which have been there, there is one thing which we can agree that our political class has not been working for us. There is too much problems which have happened to our society, and instead of the political class becoming part of the solution, they actually accelerated that problem. I remember Ben Carson once said, Ben Carson, the famous writer, that the day when the masses will realize that their problem is the political class, they will be able to emancipate themselves. So other than the vices which we have, and I know they actually make us not to do much, like corruption, nepotism, all the vices which we practice as African people, whereby mapendeleo mingi, whereby like we only want to employ people who we know, too much underhand deals, all those issues. There's a problem I have. Do you think we can achieve that status of an advanced country, as everybody aspires to be, with a reduction in unemployment, while we are still practicing corruption and all those things? And is our curriculum, like, for instance, I want to give an example of America. Von EVANSON, I want to, because I have experience there, I want to give you an example of America, of something I want, and it's not about people born again or being saved. Being saved, that's another thing. But in America, we have these people of posta. They are called UPS. These people of posta, these people deliver goods. These people, what they do, I was even talking with another Kenyan, and I will shock you what we said. These people of UPS delivery, you order something, and they go dropping in people's doors. Whether it is something worth $1,000, $500, $200, $1, they are dropped. Even these days, even people are ordering shopping from Walmart or other stores, and again they drop you into your doors. Maybe if your commodity, you have written that it is delicate or it is sensitive, it needs to be dropped into my house. That's the time when they knock and they put for you. So I was talking with another Kenyan. We were trying to analyze that thing. So that Kenyan, we were saying, if this thing was being practiced in Kenya, there could be a guy with a pickup. That's what we were saying. There could be a guy with a pickup who is following these people as they drop these things in people's doors. That guy is speaking and putting in his pickup. He is picking them and putting them in his pickup. So those are things which are happening in advanced countries. Though maybe there could be some lost items here and there. I'm not saying that it is completely an harmonious, but largely it is a system which works. Like everybody has a zip code, and that zip code, that is where your products are brought. Anything which you order, that's why like logistics is very simple for them. It's not okay. It's not a must that the people have to go to the shop. So, and it's not an issue of people being born again, because it's something which we take it subjectively, because we pretend that because I go to church, I say Bwana Yesu asifiwe or praise God, we feel that we have immune, or we feel that we have immune to, we have been immunized, that there are no problems which can befall us. Only that people come and tell us Bwana Yesu asifiwe, and then they're the same people who are stealing from us. So there's that issue, there's that virtue gap which we have purely lost. So what I wanted to ask you in equal measure, do you think we can deliver this Kenya we want to we want to deliver while still practicing these vices? And is our CBC curriculum handling these vices, like the kids who we are training? Because we have to agree that somewhere these vices have to go if we have to develop Kenya. So do you think CBC is trying to instill this character of a corrupt-free society? That's the question. Kirangi, you can begin.
Okay, this question is quite difficult for me, but let me say very frankly. The other day I was sharing with another engineer friend of mine, and he was telling me that corruption is something that you cannot describe. It is so big that you cannot tell how big it is. It is so wide that you cannot tell how wide it is. It is so deep you cannot tell how deep it is. And it is so ugly that you do not even want to imagine about it. Corruption is so bad. And it is not only in Kenya. Corruption is everywhere in the world. If we have gold scams in Kenya, I'm hearing you have gold scams in Kenya. Who are those people who are being scammed? Mostly Mzungus. The Mzungus are falling victim to scammers in Kenya. Why? Is it because we do not have a government ministry of mining and the sort? It's because they believe in shortcuts. That's why they end up being scammed. So corruption is not only in Kenya. Then we have our education. Does our education really support stealing or bad morality? No. We are teachers. Do we teach immorality? No. We are teaching the right thing. Indeed, we frown upon theft or thievery. But then, where does the student get this vice from? It's from the society. Okay, I had a priest friend of mine who was talking about scandal. And this is what we meant refer to as scandal. When a person of a higher moral authority does something which is morally wrong, those people who are down the pyramid will be, oh, it is not so bad. If so and so can do it, then I can also do it. If a teacher maybe let me put this as a joke, although it's a very serious forum here. If a teacher farts in class and he's in class, kunyamba tu, sinaelewa kunyamba bwana, mwalimu amenyamba class, wanafunzi watachukuliaje? You get what I mean, everyone? Now, it is a scandal because students will be scandalized. If a teacher can fart in class, then it is not wrong to fart. And the next thing, that class will be hell. It will be horrible. They all fart. So our country has been ridden with scandal after scandal after scandal. Our first government taught us that it is not wrong to steal land. The second government came in and followed suit, stealing land. The third government came in. People knew, oh, if people in higher offices can steal land, why not we? And juniors started and followed suit. Scandals come from the society, come from the community within. Where we live, whatever we do, it is mirrored by the society and the young ones. And therefore, CBC might not change the attitude of the people if only the leaders at the top continue doing wrong things. The young ones will continue doing the same wrong things. Because as Chinua Achebe will tell you, when the mother cow is chewing grass, the young one washes his mouth. And therefore, what the bigger ones are doing, the small ones are watching. Usually, not what we do, not what we say that matters, but what we do that matters. What we do is what the students will learn, not what we say. However much we change the CBC, however much we change the curriculum, however much we change everything, we can only change our way of living. If we stop stealing, our children will stop stealing. We cannot preach water and drink wine and think that things are going to be okay. That's my submission.
Yes, but I can see Fanny Njeri, and she is saying that she wishes that Gen Z can discover the channel. You people, if you have them, even after this broadcast, you are free to share with them. I think it will be there for life. And I've still not forgotten that question which I was asked about the dollar. I will handle it as I conclude my statement. So don't worry. So Bore, you can handle the same. I hope you remember the question. Do you?
Yes, I do very well.
Right.
Let me say this about corruption in our country, and I think Bwana Evanson has put it well. There was no better analogy to use than that. But then let me say this: we as a country, we sometimes joke that there is some money that has been set aside to fight corruption, and then it ends up being stolen. That's the irony that we have in our country. Money is set aside to to fight corruption, ends up being stolen by the so-called fighters of corruption. But just look at recently when and allow me to be candid. Recently, when the new president was sworn in, there was the hue and cry that some fellows had been wrongly implicated in corruption scandals. So what happened? Within 1 year, we had over 245 corruption cases being withdrawn against presidential allies. Now, the DPP was all over media writing letters left, right, and center saying that so and so has been, the charges that were leveled against them were malicious, there were this and this, and Kenyans end up not getting justice. We have scandals. We have had scandals in our country. We are talking about, for example, if you remember the Kimware Dam, we are talking about 63 billion Kenyan shillings at that particular moment, and other graft cases that we have had in our country. And yet, we still elect the same people to power. So I think what we have, I don't think that the current education system is going to do anything much to change this. We need to have a paradigm shift as a country. I look forward to a time when the president in our country can stand and say, I am firing this minister because he has been implicated in this graft. I look forward to a time when the president will call for a press conference and tell us, I am going to fire so and so. He happens to be my friend, but when it comes to the running of this country, we will not allow this corruption to happen. If it starts, because it usually trickles down, it's not up, it's not bottom up as it were. It trickles down. So if we have the fight against corruption happening at the top, then slowly and slowly the culture changes even down here. But when you still have the police officers, the traffic police officers, being so powerful that lifting their hands means you go to your pocket and take out some notes to him, and then we still have a long way to go. Therefore, our education system may not change this, because it happens everywhere. Our students see what is happening, and you cannot have, even if you are to introduce a syllabus on corruption, they will tell us that we see every day in our news that this and this is happening, and yet these are the people who are doing very well outside there. And by the way, just so that we are not gotten wrong, and Mr. Kirangi said it, corruption is not only in Kenya, it is everywhere. But now, because we are now talking about Kenya, why can't we be the first ones to change that perspective, that we can deal with corruption? We usually have anti-corruption conferences happening in Kenya every now and then. You hear, billions of money, millions has been set aside to go and sit somewhere and discuss corruption. And a few days later, we are back to it again. So I think it is... it's something that really needs a societal kind of conversation that needs to happen, and it has to trickle down. And I hope that such kind of conversations that we are having here can help us shape that kind of conversation around the country. And even the citizenry themselves need to reawaken and ensure that they can call out their leaders when they are wrong, so that we can now have a better Kenya where corruption becomes a thing of the past. Therefore, as far as the education system is concerned, it may not help anything. In fact, we might even see the corruption cases and corruption and all that being on the rise. Those are my submissions.
Yeah, now that we are trying to handle, thank you for that, corruption and our education system, to see if our education system can help to fight that vice. And I felt that both of you don't feel our education system being robust enough to fight that. But there's a question which I also want to ask you. We teach religion in school. Sometimes we call it CRI. Maybe this time around, I don't know how they call it. During our time, it used to be called CRI and IRI, for those who are doing Islamic, most of it. I don't know if Indians, they had incorporated the Indian one there. So I have a question in terms of that. By design or by nature, Kenya is 80% religious. We are close to 97% religious. Like everybody in Kenya, close to everybody in Kenya, we believe there is a God somewhere. And we believe that God loves good things. And those are the same things which we teach our kids in school, especially those who are doing. You remember, like, I don't know if Bonambori, you are of the generation which used to do this GHCRE, where we had 30. And during our GHCRE, we usually used to have the last question of CRE. And that last question of CRE, ama hiyo maswali ya mwisho ya CRE ilikuanga, you are walking in the road and you meet 500 shilling in the highway. So what are you going to do? You remember those questions, and everybody is having the right answer. Like they give option A, take the money and eat. Option B, like you see, that question was ilikuanga okolea swali. No one could fail it. Somebody knows the right thing to do. Even as Kenyans, we know the right thing to do when it comes. We know that stealing is evil. But unfortunately, we are still talking about morality and good things in our religious center and some other places, but it is not reflecting in our way of life. So maybe as our last question, before we make a conclusion, you people, can you help me to understand why is it that we are having a disconnect of rhetoric or how people talk? When somebody is talking, you hear somebody saying, "Mimi sio mwizi," "Me, I'm not a thief." When people are talking, but when you go to their way of life, they are stealing. So why are we having a disconnect of talking and doing? And we are having so much problems in Kenya, like everybody who is like managing a senior institution. Let's say you are an MD of a parastatal, or you have been given an administration office somewhere to run. There must be a scandal. Um, and this one runs to almost every institution of our country. Like somebody knows that he is in that office to arrange himself, as we say it in Kenya, kujipanga. Mimi, yani people arranging themselves, like everybody ambaye amepewa ofisi wanasemanga hivyo, mimi niko hapo kujipanga. They are arranging themselves. So in that note, why is it that when people get high jobs of honor or whichever office you have, why is it that you are arranging yourself instead of arranging Kenya? That is the problem which I have. So maybe we can start with Imbori and then we go to Kirangi.
Let me first say you started by talking about something to do with religion and all that. We are a religious country, but yet we still see this kind of thing. Let me say this. I read somewhere somebody say that there is a difference between believing in God and knowing God. And most of us just believe, but we don't know God. We just believe there exists a supreme being. And what we have happening in our country is that, yes, we are a religious, and I'm going to use that very, reservedly, because we are a religious country, but when you look at the actions of our leaders, they do not meet the threshold for a religious country. Why do I say this? People have now used religion as a scapegoat. We are hiding behind religion. We are hiding behind Christianity and saying that we have leaders who have been born out of God's will, who have been elected out of God's will. And then we run to church every Sunday, and we are given, in fact, they sit next to the priest in church, and even in their villages, they're usually invited to share their words of wisdom with the people, and they will hear them speak, and you will hear them talk about the plans they have, and you will hear the congregation clap for them, and you hear the pastor praise them. Why? Because immediately after the service, what is going to happen is that they will leave some cash for the pastor. So the pastor must say something that pleases them. So there is a big disconnect between really leadership and what they are supposed to do, and now the issue of religion coming in. And as far as that is concerned, that is something that maybe needs to be relooked at. And I hope that our religious people, our religious, the clergy will really come out sometimes and speak truth to power. Today I heard the Catholic bishops calling out the government for its fake promises, and I hope that is something that can be sustained. But then later on you'll see them, and I'm just being preemptive, they're likely to be invited to State House for a cup of tea, and immediately after that you'll see, oh yeah, the government has had us, and they'll be walking out with some brown envelope saying the government has had us and there is something that is going to change. So we still have a long way. That disconnect exists, but I don't know how that can be dealt with. So maybe Kirangi can offer some solutions on what can happen.
Evanson?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Now, as my colleague has said, we have a very big disconnect between the region and the practice. I often follow a certain speaker somewhere, and he was saying in jest that one day He was living in Dubai. He was at the international airport at Dubai. And somebody wanted to leave their luggage, and they were anxious where to leave their luggage. And maybe somebody said, "You can leave it anywhere here." They are not Christians. Most of these people that call themselves Christians, they are simply pretenders. As my brother is saying, they only know there is God, but they do not know God. They are pretentious, to say the least. Oh, they go to church just as a pastime activity, and those who are religious leaders, they are simply doing it as an economic activity. They are only there to earn. If only they were not going to be paid. The other day I saw a pastor somewhere at an evangelist selling papers. You see those blank printing papers. He cut them to pieces and he told them, pick these papers, and by the time you reach home, they will have turned into money. And the more you give generously, the more you are going to get. And I was shocked. Are these really human beings with sense, or they are just robots without a mind of their own? Church and religion has been misused to scam people. How many scandalous things we have heard from those religious people? Horrible and ghastly, to talk the least. Now, we have this. We cannot cure our problem through religion because religion is very individual. It is between you and what you believe as God and truth and the correct thing to do. Behavior cannot be shaped perfectly through religion. It has not proven to work. And even as early as biblical times, we had people who are selling their property in order to go and give to the church. Isn't it the content in the Bible that some couple were going to give their contribution and they died at the altar? Were they Ananias and his wife Sapphira? Why? They were corrupt. They behaved corruptly. Is it because they did not know whether there was God? Is it because they did not know who God was? No. Corruption is as old as humankind. It's only we need to search our souls in order to establish, are we doing the right thing or the wrong thing? When I was teaching in Garissa, I was with a certain friend of mine. Maybe one day she will be in this panel. She was telling me, integrity is what you do when nobody is watching. Now, most of our people, our religious leaders, need a prefect to hold them, because if they are not on the pulpit, whatever they are going to do behind the curtains, only devil knows. So we cannot cure our problems of endemic corruption through religion. It is dead on arrival. That's my submission.
Okay. I think we are moving on well, and I hope this discussion is helping people. I can see Hussein is saying something. People are always afraid of traditional beliefs, and they won't go against that. So she is proposing that our leaders should be taking oath when they, instead of holding the Bible. I'm just trying to read one of the comments of the people here. Maybe you can react to it when giving. She is claiming that we be oathing using our tradition rather than using the white man religion. So I don't know how that one would sound, or how the most Christian nation like Kenya will be. And you know very well, in Kenya, there is no, people have been unable to differentiate between Murogi and Muganga. So those are things which we are still grappling on with now. That in Kenya, and I'm sorry to say this, a medicine man, and you know we have them, he can either be confused to a witch doctor. So I think we need a proper learning, proper schooling of what we believe in or how our societal fabric looks like, because it's a bit shocking that in today's world, hata daktari wa mitishamba, which could be very authentic by the way, today could be confused with a murogi. So because we are highly modernized, that anything exotic sounds good, and I don't know who is going to help us about that. So Angela Wambuya anasema pia kitu, we should also stop clapping and laughing when the gangsters are publicly speaking. Be serious and think before responding to politicians to religious leaders. Yeah, I think Kenyans have not understood that they have not been able to put into practice that story which is said about a wolf in sheep clothes. I think Kenyans have not been able to understand that it happens all the time. Where kuna wimbo, I don't know, saa zingine Wakenya wasikilizange zile nyimbo wanaimba. Kuna wimbo tulikuwa tunaimba kitambo, umejivalia ngozi ya kondoo, kumbe wewe ni mbwa mwitu. So we used to, it was, I think it even used to come in one of the radio when they were bringing their program. So Kenyans have a lot of information. We can't say that the people don't know the right thing to do. The challenge which has been there is that at times people are not able to present themselves as that living sacrifice, and they use their bodies and their ways of life as a sacrifice to God. So maybe you people, I can ask you a question. Maybe let me start with Bore. Now that we have talked of mega scandals here, every time, when every regime comes, there must be some money which will be stolen. You remember, maybe I'm not very familiar with the Kenyatta One regime, but during Moi time, we had like the famous golden bag, the famous golden bag. So during Moi time, there were scandals. Then we came to Kibaki. Kibaki was like this scandal of agro-leasing, which was connected to Muiraria. Then during Uhuru time, we had this Kimwarel, where Kimwarel, Itare Dam, all those dams which had to be constructed, and we lost 63 billion. And now in the Ruto time, we also have like so many scandals and like this arranged issues, whereby like now we are now hearing we could be losing our airport, our medical facilities, our medical work could go haywire. There are so many things which are happening. I was reading a story like in China, where they have been able to deal with corruption. Most of the time, they behead corrupt people. Like they have decided that corruption is equivalent to murder. Is like somebody in the desert. In other words. So a question which I'm asking is how can Kenya solve graft? Like, will there be a near? We will be hearing news in Kenya and there's no any single corruption scandal which we are told of. Like, what can we do to stop this news of 10 billion has gotten lost, 4 billion has gotten lost? Like, because those are the news which we hear in the TV. Sijui watu fulani wamepatikana what can happen so that this news, they are not edifying, and they are also corrupting our upcoming society, our young people who you said very well, Bwana Mbore, that and Bwana Kirangi, that they are also learning from us how to steal. Now, what can Kenya do to make sure that these corruption scandals are mitigated close to zero, or they are not there? Tubaki tu na wezi wa kawaida, wezi wa kuku, wezi wa ng'ombe, wale wezi ambao we can deal with them, sababu we know very well kudeal na wezi wa kuku na ng'ombe au tunachomanga. They have never bothered us, wezi wa kuku na wezi wa ng'ombe. We have gotten a solution for them, lakini hawa wezi wa mabilioni ni kama tumekosa solution. Bore, go ahead.
Very, very good question you asked there. I think there is someone who, before I get to that question, somebody was asking about the use of Bible to swear in. I think they've just nowadays it's just you know, it's a normal thing that happens, so they don't even take it seriously. Instead, I think we should be using the constitution, that somebody should be lifting the constitution of Kenya and saying that I'm going to abide by this constitution. And by the way, we need even to change the wordings of that oath so that they take responsibility that if they engage in any kind of misdemeanor or anything that they engage in, then they face full force of the law, other than just saying that I pledge to abide and they never do that anyway. But then coming to your question, uh, the issue about corruption is a thorn in the flesh in this country, and I don't think it is something that can be handled in one day. But then we need to see what is it that can happen. Are there countries around the world that have stringent measures that prevent corruption at the top level there? So that in Kenya, for example, the other day you had there was a maize scandal that we had in Kenya involving the member of parliament from Western called John Waluke. I think he's from a constituency called Sirisia constituency, and it was around 300 and something million shillings maize scandal, maize case that he was involved in, and the courts initially had jailed him for 67 years. Later on, some few years later on, because of course I believe it was something to do with the fact that he has money, what did the courts do? The courts quashed that particular jail term, and as we speak right now, he's a very free man. Actually, he's still the member of parliament for Sirisia, and I believe he'll be vying for even a bigger position in 2027. Oh wow. Why? Because we have a very good judicial system in our country. So it all starts with the judiciary. What do we have in our country is the fact that the executive runs every bit of the arms of government. Remember that the 2010 constitution envisioned a scenario where we have an independent judiciary, we have an independent executive, we have an independent national government. But then we have made the executive and office of the president, to be precise, to be the overall prefect of all these other arms of government, so that instead of working together to ensure justice, then we have one, which is the executive now, telling the judiciary and the National Assembly what they need to be doing. Let's just use the case the other day, and you could see how Kenya can be very efficient in impeaching a deputy president, but when it comes to passing laws, they take years to do that. But then they can receive a call today and they are told tomorrow, can you be in parliament special sitting to impeach so and so, and they do that, yet they are supposed to be independent. So then what is the solution? Because you are asking for the way forward here. My own feeling is that we need to see these countries that are doing well. You know, I was happy sometimes back when I think the former president of was it Sudan, Nani al-Bashir, was arrested after after getting out of office because of some kind of scandals here and there. We have had countries where presidents have been arrested immediately they finish their term, because some of the time they cannot be prosecuted when they're in power because they're immune, as it were, to the law. Then after they finish their term, they are taken to court because they were found culpable. I look forward, and the only way out of this is by us having an independent judiciary that stands with the people. If we have a judiciary that is able to say and speak in one language, because you see, a case is brought to the High Court of Kenya, and then what happens? Maybe that person is convicted of a crime. They run to the Court of Appeal. They get, maybe the Court of Appeal agrees with the High Court. What does this person do? Runs to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in Kenya has the final say. And because, and I was listening, and allow me to quote this, I was listening to a senior lawyer, a senior counsel by the name Ahmed Nasir, now calling the judiciary jurispesa. Jurispesa in the sense that now they are dealing with money. That if you don't have the money, then your case is as good as that. So if you have the money, you're lucky because the judges will rule in your favor. So the back of all this, apart from the executive, as it were, the president taking responsibility, also rests with the judiciary. Because if the judiciary was independent and played its role very well in ensuring that they convict those fellows who are corrupt, and they convict them, and there's nothing like bail. Actually, they shouldn't be telling them that you either spend 10 years or pay this and this fine. They'll pay because they have the money. I wish the judiciary will be telling them that you have been found guilty and you have been sentenced to 20 years in prison, and there is nothing like bail and all that. Even as much as the constitution allows it, that clause should be changed sometime so that the judiciary has the powers to jail certain people who have been convicted of economic crimes and all that, so that they don't even see a door to power. Otherwise, we'll continue having the same issue. So it has to do with the judiciary, and as Kenyans also being very deliberate, we should be asking for us to change the constitution to give more power to the judiciary and to have stringent. Actually, it's not even about hanging them. You talked about hanging. I think we should be having them rot in prison so that they can die slowly by slowly, because they have killed our economy. Those are my views as far as that's concerned.
Okay, Kirangi, go ahead. The same question.
Now, our solution, I think I would need to borrow from some other civilization somewhere. We need to make corruption so expensive to the perpetrators so that a person is convicted having stolen 50 million. They are forced to surrender all that they own, and then they are jailed for life. Okay, we cannot force them to surrender. We appropriate all that they are saying to own, because usually we have this notion, hata nikikufa nitaachia watoto wangu mali. In another civilization, they will annex all that is yours, all your material, and if it's Njero Kirangi was stolen, he will go to prison with his wife, and the children will also follow suit and go to juvenile prison, so that the neighborhood will see, oh, it is wrong to steal. In another civilization, I saw somebody's property being brought down to zero. Buildings being brought down, being torn down by excavators, cars and things being torn down, and then the corrupt person who has been convicted of corruption and economic crimes is taken to jail for life. I don't think I agree very much with jailing somebody for 20 years. 20 years is a very short time. They should go in for life, and it should also make the family so poor so that nobody will be tempted to steal, with the hope that even if they jail me, my wife and children will swim in affluence. My wife and children will swim in the money that I stole for them. It should be like, you are found culpable. All that you had stolen, all that you had labored for, because it's not that you have stolen everything. You have what you have stolen plus what you have labored for. So all your material, what you have stolen, what you have labored for, is appropriated, and then next you go to jail for life, so that even those who are planning to steal will find it is not going to steal, because it does not help me in the end, neither does it help my kin and kids. That's my submission.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Bwana Kirangi. I think, okay, Mbore is here. There's something I want to share here so that you can react to it. And then you give your closing remarks so that we can end in the next 15 minutes. So let me share something here. Let me see if it is able to present. Mhm. Yeah, you can watch. It is a Kenyan politician, eh?
What our guests have to say this evening. I have Dr. Mukisa Kitu, who is a former cabinet minister, here in studio, and Wanja Maina, who is a new media expert, but also an active citizen. Good evening, both of you.
Good evening.
And Daktari, we've seen your statement about different issues of, especially touching on education at different levels. But the cabinet has issued a statement sort of saying that things are actually okay, all the way from the economy to matters management of health. What would you say?
If a person says to Kenyans today that things are okay, that person lives abroad. They do not know what Kenyans are feeling. If you face the situation of young men and women who are uncertain whether they're going to sit exams next month at university or not, because they're being asked to pay money they don't have, they can't tell you things are okay. If you asked parents today about the uncertainty of a changing education system without resources and facilities, making children in public schools not competitive compared to those going in private high-cost schools, you tell them things are okay, they say you don't know what you're talking about. If you have seen what is happening with the deindustrialization of Kenya, enterprise migrating to neighboring countries, and you say that we're comfortable because we're exporting our labor, when you should be growing Kenyan labor for Kenyan enterprise, and you tell them things are okay, you live abroad.
And Wanja, very strong responses from the Minister of Education, Minister of Health, as well as the National Police Service this evening on all the questions raised by both the press statement by the Catholic bishops, but also the political class led by the Kenya Party leader, Martha Karua. So where are we, if you're to compare all these statements that appear to be not in agreement?
Thank you very much, Sam, for the invitation. The Catholic Church, according to the Kenyan census in 2019, we have over 9 million Catholics in Kenya. The Catholic Church is one of the churches that has worked in one of the remotest places in Kenya. In fact, in some places where I've worked, like in some rural areas in Samburu, when the Catholic priest is going to the outpost to make their Catholic Mass, they go with mahindi, maharagwe, and the Catholic Church is often sometimes perceived to be some form of government. They have educated children of the very low income areas, and therefore they are at the pulse of the people and at the pulse of Kenyans in low economic means. I don't know why this government has formed a habit of being reactionary, defensive, and at war with the people they lead. When we talk about the issue of social health, SHA, SHIF, or whatever they call it, I mean, even though you say that it's working, are you marking your own exams? If Citizen TV has gone to Nakuru, like the story I saw, which was very sad, a 75-year-old man crying, saying that he has nothing to do. Why should I believe a press statement from the Ministry of Health, yet I can see a man who needs dialysis?
All right.
No, some of these things are very urgent.
All right.
An individual who needs dialysis is an individual who cannot pee. Dialysis is a life-saving exercise that is done to an individual for 2 to 3 times a week so that they can wash their urea. This is an individual whose body is just upside down.
All right.
I mean, it has to work for those people. For me...
All right. Gentleman, action was taken the following day, and we understand.
Yes, that is the story. Maybe can you react to that as we conclude? Bole?
It's only unless you live abroad. But I'm sure even those who are abroad still content and say what is happening in Kenya is not right. They can feel it even themselves, because this is unprecedented. We didn't expect that it will get to this level. But then they have raised very pertinent issues that, and I don't know whether that was Wanja, if I got her name right. She talked about the issue that you cannot set your own exam and then mark it. You're telling us that, for example, that the SHA is working and you're praising it. Yet, for ground, when people are asked, people are suffering, they cannot access dialysis, they cannot access medical services, they cannot access what they used to access maybe through the traditional NHIF. Within 6 months, a few months, not even 6 months, within a few days, 2 months, the CEO of the new social health fund has been fired. What does that tell you? Corruption has even begun before it begins. It's before the rollout even begins. Already we are seeing a system that cannot work. I think this government, sorry to say, is working on a trial and error basis, trying things left, right, and center, seeing whether it's going to work. And it seems that they have decided to play games with even the health of Kenyans. And then somebody will come to you and tell you that indeed the government has delivered, and they'll ask you, let's clap for the president. But I think I'm happy because the Kenyans are slowly realizing that our politicians are laced with so much lies, and they are beginning to accept that fact. Nowadays, it's not what used to be. The leaders have found it rough going somewhere to talk about some of these so-called government plans, and then they are shut down by the electorate. And I hope that can be translated to a vote in 2027, so that these leaders who have put us to where we are as a country then can be voted out of office. Otherwise, if we continue saying that we are doing okay when the health of a country is down, we don't even know where we are heading to. The education system with a new funding model that cannot be sustained and cannot work is down. Our economy is down. All our sectors right now are down. So where are we heading to? Therefore, I associate myself again with the comments that have been made by Mukisa Kitui, saying that indeed, if any person says that as a country we are doing really well, that person maybe is not a citizen of Kenya. Let me not even say he's living abroad. He's not even a citizen of Kenya who does not know what happens in Kenya.
Bwana Kirangi, react to the video. Do you think they are talking the truth or they are speaking about another country?
These people are telling nothing but the truth. Because as the panelist here is saying, if somebody tries to say that Kenya is doing well or anything is doing well in Kenya, then that person has just landed from another planet and is the only visitor in Jerusalem, probably, who does not know what is really happening. I've seen, as the former person has said, a man old as 70 plus years, crying, weeping in hospital because he cannot be attended to, because he has no, SHA is telling him, no, we are not paying this. And he has sold everything. You know, my friend, those people who are living with these chronic illnesses, most of them are sold everything trying to save their lives. And the only lifeline they had was the NHIF. Now it is scrapped hurriedly, and nobody knows why. Then we are told we have another one which is not working, and somebody is always saying it's working. Oh, the other time the Minister for Health is saying, oh, please just wait a little. We are fixing a little problem here and it's going to work. Now, do you tell your patients to postpone their sickness or to stop getting sick until we fix the problems that they are? Now, We have students who do not know what to do next. I'm told some students have not even reported to school because they were placed in the wrong bands. And with that band, a student who cannot afford that 1,000 in cash, I'm being told to pay 200,000 for one semester. How do that student do? And as I said, our biggest problem we have in Kenya is funding. And the political leadership that we have is so shameless. They think we are fools. They think that they are dealing with fools that they were in 1942, that the country does not have money. Oh, kwani mnafikia pesa inatoka wapi? And then we have to change everything. All of a sudden, they have changed. Now, what is working? Education, the new funding model is not working. Health, the new medical scheme is not working. Oh, even the teachers scheme that went away with their health allowance or medical allowance is no longer working. And people are told, you either register with SHA or SHIF or go to hell. And then after registering, oh, I thought I would comply and try to register. And the next thing I found is that my application was queuing. For the last 3 weeks, it is queuing. I don't know how long does a queue take. Okay, so it is queuing. Now, no education, no health, and then has taken over. I was seeing some Egyptian traveler crying at JKIA yesterday because of harassment. Okay, at JKIA, something that was unprecedented before. Things are going down. Things are crumbling, and people are up in arms and saying, we are doing so well. Yule mtu alikuwa analeta nyokonyoko ameenda, sasa tumepaki tufanye kazi. Sasa ni kuchapa kazi. Yule mwenye alikuwa analeta nyokonyoko ameenda. I would end by saying, I am sorry to be Kenyan. I cannot be proud. I can only say navumilia tu kuwa Mkenya. Kama kungekuwa na kwingine kwa kuenda, ungetafuta mahali ya kuenda, lakini it is not yet too late. We cannot give up at this time. We still have hope in 2027 if we do not make the same mistake at the ballot. That could be my closing remark.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a good reaction to the video. Case in time, surely they have represented our country as it looks now. Things are thick. People are devastated, and we don't seem to have any political solution to all the political problems which we have. I don't know if they are waiting for angels to come and rescue us, or what should happen. But Kenya is just in a worse point. I hope an intelligent man can be able to see this, and he can come and rescue us before it is too late to take our country to the dogs, places whereby we cannot be able to recover. So maybe you people in 2 minutes, you can put your closing remarks, and then we can end the podcast. And maybe before I end the podcast, maybe before you do your conclusion, let me now respond to the lady who asked about the dollar. There is a very serious question I was asked. Maybe you can allow me this minute. Furnace Jerry, maybe Jerry, I'm responding to you, might be out of topic, but do you think the dollar will be rising against the shilling? Let me tell you, as you are aware right now, the cryptocurrency is doing very well since the election of Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump, in terms of business, he does it very well. Personally, I have seen like my cryptocurrency investment increasing by over 23% within the last 1 week. There was a time when I had invested like around $500. It reduced to 200 during Biden regime. Then right now I have seen my value is increasing. I'm at 800 from last week, the election. So what does it mean? So it means America has gotten back to business. America, they will be thriving to improve their economy. So what does it mean? The American economy is going to expand. Now you have heard what we are talking about Kenya. Kenya, we are talking about economic contraction. So the only time when the dollar and the Kenyan shilling can relate is if the economies are working in the same positive direction. So based on what is happening, if Americans are going to bring more stringent measures that they want to do, and our economy, we are not innovative enough, and we think about how we are going to strengthen the Kenyan shilling, I think moving forward, Kenyan shilling could get devastated. That's what I think. So I think Kenyan shilling could perform badly because I think Americans are now interested in improving the economy. I think they are not interested in war. If you listen to Donald Trump policies, so it's up to us, Kenya, and the Mr. Ruto administration to make sure that the economy is more feasible. Otherwise, the Kenya shilling will perform very bad. There was a time when one minister in Kenya said that we expect the American dollar to perform badly or the American economy to contract. And during the contraction of the American economy, the Kenyan shilling is going to rise. So what does it mean? If the American economy is going to expand, the Kenyan shilling is going to be affected if we are not having stringent measures to cushion the Kenyan shillings from that. Sometimes they borrow money to cushion it, but borrowing money is not sustainable. So, Fanis Njeri, the Kenyan shilling will not perform well. I hope I have responded to your question. So, Bwana Bore, we can put a closing remark, and then you people have really enjoyed your conversation. Should you get another time, I'm welcome to still come and continue with this topic because I believe it is inexhaustible. There is so much we can speak about our nation as people who want to play in the forefront, as people who want to play as forward, so that we can change the society, and we can also become part of the solution, and we can also become as part of the people who want to see transformation in our society in the positive agenda, because we can no longer remain silent again as our nation is crashing, as things are not even coming here and saying what is a positive direction, is a positive step in the positive direction. Once everybody knows this, there is adverse effect in our politics. And we could be part of the people who could actually advise our people next. What is the next direction in voting? As long as we remain objective and we are able to pinpoint the problems which are bedeviling our society. Otherwise, I'm happy. You people, you can put a 2 minutes conclusion, each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Indeed, we have had a very successful conversation, and this is part of the solution. I would say that if we are able to have such kind of a conversation and speak truth to power, as it were, then it is the beginning of a better Kenya. And I would want to say this, that number one, the solution for all these problems that we have lie with us. We cannot expect that somebody else is going to come from us and help change this country. We cannot expect that we are going to import leadership. We cannot import leadership. We have to make do with what we have. Most of the time, we have very good people who are on the ballot. We have so good people. I remember there was a gentleman I used to admire so much. I think he was the PS of Education right then. He was and then he vied for president. He was he was called Olekiapi. Olekiapi was a PS, and he vied for presidency. A very fine gentleman with a very good manifesto. You could see that he's somebody who is incorruptible. He spoke very well during the debate and all that. But when people went out to vote, they still went for the Mtuwetu kind of narrative, and they picked someone, and within no time they were crying. And I hope we have learned enough lessons. And if we haven't, then I don't know who will teach us better, because we have already learned our lesson, and we cannot afford to make these mistakes. We cannot afford to make this mistake again. And the power lies with us. And I hope this Gen Z frenzy can continue to 2027, and we have people now making up their minds. And I hope, by the way, for clarity purposes, we can have a new, fresh leadership, not the same old people that we have had, not the same old fish that we have always gone to take from the lake, and they don't serve us well. Let us have a paradigm shift and have very new faces that we have never seen. Even those people right now who are now pretending to be with Kenyans outside there, saying that we are with the Gen Zs, are the same breed. They're children of the same mother in politics, and they are political cousins. In fact, one Lin Jiru that I like listening to once said that all these politicians that we have are political cousins. They know each other. They have been together all that time. Even if they appear to be in opposing sides, sooner or later you will see them working together. So let us have a total shift, and this time around, even go for the unpopular candidate who is outside there. Let us taste new leadership. And I believe that the young people, who are the majority, are the solution bearers for this country. And let us keep calling out bad leadership. And I like the way Kenyans are doing it. We keep calling them out. Even if they threaten us, we can still call them out. And I believe that a better Kenya will be realized. Those are my submissions. And thank you very much for this conversation. I hope we can still have it some other time. Asante sana.
Okay, maybe to ask you a question, maybe you can tell me. Do you think there is somebody who can become a good president in Kenya?
There are so many people. There are so many. Let me let me not pinpoint someone as at now, because we may not really have learned so many of these people. There are people who are calling themselves the speakers of the Gen Zs, as it were. There was a gentleman, but then lately I've seen Kenyans now telling him that you've gotten into our nerves. Every day you're asking for us to give you money. But then he has been trying as much as possible to expose the lies that are there in government. So as it stands, I don't think I can pinpoint someone and say that this is the president. But then we wait for somebody to show interest, and then from that list, then we can now narrow down and say this is the best person. Because again, we cannot just force someone and tell them, can you run for president? It has to come from within. And I believe that after we have people showing interest, then we can have this conversation again, and I'll tell you, I've seen this, and this is the person that I will really ask Kenyans to support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bwanambore. Fantastic contribution. I think your students are blessed to have you. Keep teaching English and literature. We will still bring you here on board for different range of topics. We can even bring you here even to discuss your literature books. We have a lot we can do, and I really appreciate your high intellect and willingness to say things here. And I know even the audience in this group is really enjoying what you people are saying. This is clearly showing that Kenya is not lacking a source of knowledge. It's only that sometimes people have been positioned in different places, or maybe people have been sidelined. So the people who are supposed to be doing real things, they are elsewhere doing other things. So I think you are an asset to Kenya, and I hope you continue shining in your career, so that you can also be able to venture into that space whereby you can create more impact, even though you're also creating impact as a teacher in Nyangwa. And thank you even for Mr. EVANSON KIRANGI, having made you to know this channel of ours. This is a young channel. We are trying to grow, and we are glad that we will still keep on bringing people here so that they can be able to give this serious dialogues which can shape our society. So, Bwana Kirangi, do you have anything else to say as we close up?
Okay, thank you for the initiative. I was apprehensive that we may not begin well, but let me tell you, we have begun on a very high note. I hope we are going to do better. There are some guys and invited over for this panel, but unfortunately, two of them, one of them is experiencing a blackout in his village, and the other one, I don't know what happened. He is offline. Maybe in our next meeting, he will be available for the meeting. We have a lot that we need to share. And by the way, talking is good. When people talk, we learn a lot. I'm happy for this event. And let's hope that in the next meeting, we are going to say more and learn more. And at least we have a way forward. That's what I can say for tonight.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm really appreciative of coming and even the willingness to invite other panelists who are not able to come. Say thank you in my in my behalf. Yeah, it's really great for somebody willing to come and share his point of opinion, especially about his nation and how to go forward. And I know Nyangwa is one of the best schools in Embu, and I think in Kenya. And I think your school is blessed to have these two teachers here. I think you people, you are helping to shape our young people. And some of these things which you have shared with us here, I know those are the things which you are sharing with the young people in school. So my only appeal to you is that whatever we have discussed here, don't feel shy to even share with them so that they can hear the point of opinion of grown-ups or a little bit older generation, what they are thinking, and also they also understand that we are in alignment with them about all these issues which are bedeviled in Kenya. And I think this video could be shared to them as part of work in progress towards the thinking which is geared towards shaping Kenya into the right direction. Sure, we cannot remain silent. And this is our contribution in our generation. We have to sound alarm and tell people what we think is good for our society. Otherwise, unless we speak, we will not be able to raise a society which is good for our children. Remember, God has given us an opportunity to leave this world better than we found it, and we leave it better for our children. And there's no way in which we can force our children to inherit the world which the politicians want to leave it to them. We have zeroed in and understood that our politicians want our descendants to inherit a pathetic world. So it is in our jurisdiction and in our arms, we have to force them to do the right thing. And we know how we force leadership, including even voting them out when the right time comes, and truncating and analyzing those leaders. What are the best, which is the person with the best qualities for now. So we presume that we will be having serious talks here, which will be having serious opinion shape in terms of what is happening and what is bedeviling our society. From your dialogue, I have felt that there is so much wrong things happening in our nation, and it's like we are cajoled to think like we are in a state of devastation that we cannot be rescued now. And it's so bad to be in a state whereby you are having a government, but you feel that the government is not working for you. I wish God grants us that hope that it is possible to have leaders who can work for you. Without any further ado, I tend to adjourn this meeting or this podcast for today until we meet another time. On Saturday, we still have another podcast. I will be here with Sare Karista. He is the famous. So he is a literature guy, by the way. So Bwana EVANSON. If you know Sare Karista, he is a teacher from Kangaru. Right now, God has given me a lot of grace with the teachers. So he is also a teacher from Kangaru. He is a famous guy. He is also having some political ambitions from what he was telling me. And we will be analyzing his novel. He has written a very serious novel about shaping the society, and his novel is called Betrayal of the Nun. And on Saturday, we will be analyzing about what he had seen when he was writing that novel of Betrayal of the Nun. So once again, in Saturday at 7 p.m. Kenyan time, join me as we discuss that. Before then, I will also be doing my own podcast of trying to analyze the different issues in Kenya, any upcoming issues, and also trying to put some knowledge where it needs to be put. Other than that, keep on sharing my channel to people, to your friends. If you so believe that there is information which is coming from here, we also seek to grow and we become one of the greatest powerhouse in Kenya, which is helping people with information. Because we believe information is power, information changes people, information changes nation, and information transforms. And that is why one of my motto in this thing is converse and transform. So we have to converse and transform, because we cannot live in this world as if we have rented it, but rather we have to live in this world as a gift from God to do His will, so that the day when we will die, we will have done our share. So I'm really happy for what we have done today, and I look forward to having you people once again. So Bwana Kirangi and Bwana Bore, naipronounce kama mzungu, Bwana Bore. If you people you get another time, I know you are in your holidays. Should you want another session, I'm open for it. You're even open to put your own topic. It's not a must I give you a topic. If you think there is a topic which you can discuss with the people, and you think that our audience here could be positive towards your speech transformation, you can always let me know. Other than that, I'm gracious and happy for you availing your 2+ hours. I know it is not easy. Time is money. It takes a lot of time to come into somebody's channel, not as a paid guest, but rather like as a person who is also trying the other person to grow and use your wisdom. I'm really happy for that and grateful for that, and we will keep on building this. Lastly, I also want to thank my special people who watch me, and the people who will watch this video after it is finally uploaded, and the people who are with us all through. Fanis Jerry, Momboi, Jane Modoni. So if she was proposing Wanjigi, that is something we can think. For real, I'm really happy, because without you, we could be speaking to none. So you are part of the people who are forming this platform, and we really take it good and courageously. Other than that, I'm happy, and shalom till we meet another time